All right, how's everything going, everybody? This is Mark Salino. Welcome back to the channel. We're taking a little bit of a different format, and we're really targeting on interesting people that I'm meeting along the way with regards to my, I guess, sports card investing and sports journey, whether it's through my own personal experiences or in conjunction with staying in the games. So for today, I wanted to bring in our first or special guest under the new format. So I wanted to introduce everybody to Mike Burnett. Had an opportunity to meet Mike on social media. We had a great conversation last week. Mike is the CEO and founder of the Philly Card Factory. Mike, how's everything going today?
Good, Mark. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
So I'm looking forward to this little session here. And before I for this show here, I think it's important and interesting to just get people's stories and different perspective on what they're seeing within within the hobby, what they're doing through their own ventures. Obviously, I'm pursuing something that intersects and intertwines very well within the sports card industry, but I want to get your perspective as well. This way, people don't necessarily have to just listen to my crap all the time. Let's get some other people and get some different perspectives in. So, in speaking with you, I just thought it was really interesting because from a sports card perspective, it's not like you've been doing this for 25 years.
Yep.
Obviously, we all went through different experiences with with regards to COVID, but your background has primarily been in business settings, corporate settings, and your specific story initially started from within the travel industry, and it migrated into the sports industry. So hopefully that I'll shut up in 2 seconds. If you take a step back here and just give people a little bit of a better understanding of who you are, and we'll get to the factory in a second here, but just talk a little bit about your journey from a corporate setting now something that's really intertwined with sports cards and collectibles full time.
Yep. So, I've, like most of us, I've always been a sports fanatic. And, as a child that included sports cards. I mean, to the point where my parents were like, what is all this cardboard in our house? This is crazy. What are you doing? And, I always looked at it as it's cool to flip over the back of the cards and look at the statistics. But I was positive that, the Todd Van Poppels and the Greg, those guys were going to pay for my college education. So,
yeah.
It was great to collect. It was fun to collect, but I always kind of had that one day this is going to pay off. Unfortunately, it didn't. At least with those specific
especially
players
in the 90s. Yeah.
It's things changed. The junk wax era came. That's a whole different conversation. But I ended up going into business. Managed a couple of different corporate travel agencies. I had spent time in the professional sports world on the business side beforehand, so kind of always had my hand in sports. But never thought anything about cards, quite honestly, until COVID came around. I was managing a corporate travel agency in Manhattan. And obviously with COVID, travel, and especially corporate travel, just came to a halt. Company kind of, went under, quite honestly. I had a third child born and was doing the typical thing that a lot of my friends were doing. I was consulting within the travel industry. And my 21-year-old cousin, who just graduated at NYU, called me and was just like, "Hey, what's going on? Let's hang out, let's talk." And found out he was into the sports card world, and learned a little bit from him about how it's not what it used to be. And I truthfully didn't think anything of it. I had a nice conversation with him, and that night I ended up buying my first slab. It was a $9 Donovan McNabb. Because I just wanted to see what the slab felt like. I just was curious what it felt like. And then, you find this whole community socially, which kind of was very similar to how I was in my professional career, right? So being in business for 20 years, I was in sales and building relationships, and this whole card game, if you will, is a very social thing, so it allows you to really meet a lot of people like this right here. But it allows you to build a lot of relationships, which I enjoyed in business. So 2 years ago or so, got into this as just, a little fun, and learned everything I could about it. I saw that there was opportunities to make a lot of money in here. And those of us that are able to use our knowledge in sports and, kind of see the future a little bit, of young players who may project to something that others may not see. And I use that as a way to invest a little bit, very similar to the way people invest in alternative assets now with NFTs and cryptocurrency. I think trading cards are very similar. You pick up a Joel Embiid rookie card from, 2 years ago, and you wait 6 months for him to do something big, or you wait 3 years for him to win a title. It's very similar to, buying an Amazon stock 3 years ago and waiting for it to do something where it could affect your life. So this is more than just a hobby, I think, for a lot of people these days. The industry is incredible because you see so many people at shows that looked like me 25 years ago, 15-year-old kids. And we spoke about this when we had our first conversation, but it's incredible seeing these 15, 16-year-old kids holding these cards that are worth as much as my truck that I have parked outside the show. It's unbelievable. So I think the future is future is bright for us all, I think, in this industry here.
Nice. Now, if you don't mind, if you could actually go back to that initial conversation kind of with your cousin. I mean, when you were having this conversation, I know that you kind of said you didn't think too much of it, but I remember thinking about these things here, and I had a very similar experience in where I was looking for alternative ways to bring users onto the State Meet Games platform, and I had a friend that said, "Hey, you know what? My dad is actually attending this hockey card show up in the Toronto area. This is actually kind of pre-COVID." I was like, this guy is smoking. I'm going to buy a plane ticket to go to a card show. Yep. I'm in my mid 40s. How is this kind of possible? And for me, the moment was walking into that show. We actually set up a table in a booth. We bought a bunch of hockey card packs, and we're giving out free packs for people that signed up for State Meet Games. And the amount of people that were kind of there was what kind of had that light bulb go off in the back of my mind, and where I said there's something kind of going on here. So when you were having that first conversation with your cousin, was there something that he was kind of buying, or I want to kind of dive into a little bit here, because I've had these conversations before, and I kind of blow them off. But something resonated with you specifically that prompted you to buy that Donovan McNabb card.
Yep. Yeah. So even at 21, he's wise beyond his years, right? He's NYU educated now.
That's true. You got an NYU graduate who's kind of investing in kind of sports cards. It's all right, it is. That makes sense.
The other thing was, him telling me this was a very small sample size, but he has a bunch of friends who were deep into this and who were really starting to make some money. And it opened up a lot of questions, and my first hesitancy, truthfully, was, when we were growing up, there was one Michael Jordan rookie card. What that card was, right?
Yeah. So
my hesitation, truthfully, was, all right, let's look at Luka, right? I'm making this number up, but there's 27 different Luka rookie cards. I can't afford to buy all 27 of them. Which one do I buy? What if I buy the wrong one? What about the numbered card? What about the color cards? There's more than 27 but once you really learn which segments of different products are profitable, like I said before, it really made me think that someone who puts a little bit of effort into this can really make some money, right? I think there's going back when I was in college, I went to Rutgers and I was trying to make some extra money, and I bought a bunch of tickets on Ticketmaster for concerts, and I went out and I sold them for whatever it could. But there was no way to make those tickets be worth more than anything they were, except if they added more shows, right? This gives you the ability, and being a sports fan, I could put on, I'm going to go put on that Mavericks Jazz game at 10:30 at night that I wouldn't have cared about. But now after this conversation, I just purchased 3 Luka rookie cards, and it gives me that, kind of skin in the game, if you will, watching those kinds of games later on. So, I think there was also a component of trying to fill my calendar a little bit. COVID hit and there was a lot of empty time, and, I was doing a lot of work at nighttime for my business, and that wasn't happening anymore. So it allowed me to have a little more, fun watching those 10:30 at night games. And then that kind of just turned into, like I said before, the social aspect of it, the business piece of it. But just going back to that initial conversation with him, he had so much excitement for it too. Like he really did. He had so much excitement for what could be, not the assets that he had. And I call trading cards assets because that's what they are,
Yeah.
But for what could be, this product is coming out and they have these, and if we do this with it, and again, the way he was speaking about it made me feel that there's something here. And to this day, he's 23 and he's a money guy in New York City, and he's my number two. It's the guy that I go to whenever I'm looking for make a big trade, or when I'm bringing a nice consignment that I kind of want some a little second set of eyes on. So the genesis was that conversation, the excitement. And it's funny when I have those conversations with people who are new to the industry and who don't really understand it too well, like you said, who think it's crazy to fly up to Toronto for a show. When they see the excitement that I have for it and the potential that it has, they have a similar reaction to what I had back 2 years ago.
Interesting. And when you bought that first Donovan McNabb kind of card, like how did you buy it? Was it basically through a trade? Did you go to like eBay? Were you at a card show? Like what sparked you? I was like, you know what? Not only am I going to buy kind of this card, but this is kind of the vehicle in which I'm making my purchase.
Yeah, I just went on eBay. I figured, that's where I used to, sell my tickets that I used to do back then. So let me just go on eBay and pop in, Donovan McNabb rookie. He was
your guy, obviously. Yeah.
Always been my guy. I've got too many jerseys to name, so figured if I'm going to have one card and one card only, clearly not how it ended up, but that'll be the one. I remember when the package came and I opened it, my wife was like, "What the hell is this? Like, why?" And I, little did she know, but eBay was the first vehicle I used. I buy from a lot of channels now, quite honestly. Socially is, through Twitter and Instagram is the best place that I find to buy. But that initial purchase and what I see from a lot of people, their first purchase on eBay.
Interesting. So I guess that's I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but in terms of like a piece of advice, what you offer is basically just don't ignore like the social media channels. I mean, obviously you have ComC, you kind of have eBay, but there are good deals that are kind of out there to be had through other individuals just on social media, if you know what you're looking for.
So I think it's stronger than don't avoid. I think you have to be engaged in social media to have any sort of success if this is more than a hobby for you. If this is just a hobby and you're looking to just build a collection, there's a million different ways you can do it. But through social media and, as I mentioned before, developing relationships, because that's what this is all about. You're really able to build a network of buyers, sellers, traders. I mean, again, we'll talk about the business in a little bit, but starting a consignment business would have been scary if I didn't have the ability to know, all right, I know a guy who's got these 12 cards. I know where these 12 can go. And it's not all 12 going in one place, kind of building those kinds of networks. And that could only happen through social. You can't find that through eBay or through Mercari or through any of these other ones. You have to deal with the crap that comes with social media. Of course, you're going to deal with some people that you don't like. You're going to.
All right, we just hit on something. You got a story, something kind of like that.
Well, look, there's always going to be, you're going to sell a card for a price that you feel is fair. Okay.
Yep.
And there's always going to be people that feel like, well, I'm only going to pay this amount for this card. You're charging this much, so you're charging too much. And you're going to have people that come after you for pricing. You're going to have people that try to undercut you for pricing. I'm going to sell a card for $100. You have the same card. You need the money. I'm going to sell it for $75.
Someone's going to come in and see the thread on social media and try and undercut.
Yeah. There's all that stuff, but it's what I've learned.
Part of the game, though. Yeah.
Exactly. It's part of the game. And just like in regular, day-to-day, face-to-face business, as long as you treat people the right way, and as long as you execute on what you say you're going to do, those little things are just little things, So, but those little things I have seen taking people away from social, and it's the opportunities that they've left on the table because of that are big. You know, I mean, some of the biggest deals I've made, buying and selling and trading, are just people I've met through Twitter, through Instagram, through Facebook. eBay's great, but you know, I can't contact you and say, hey, Mark, the card you have on eBay, is it a perfect card? Is you know, any issue with the corners, any of this, any. I'm on Twitter. You know, you and I could have I mean, I have some conversations with people for a week before they end up buying a card because so social is the key. I mean, it really is. And especially with the way the world is going, you know, eBay has a good platform, but I think they have some issues that they need to fix, and some of these other platforms do it better. And I think some people see that now. You know, eBay's not the only animal anymore. And social being not just, you know, post something on Twitter, but Instagram Reels. And, you know, look, I'm 40 years old, but I learned how to use TikTok for this because I have to, you know, like um,
I hear you. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's social is really where it's at. You know, I could print as many signs as I want, put them around town, put them in papers, get them into shows, but people want to know what my handle is. You know, like when you do a deal at a show, this is actually, I think, a good way to kind of put a bow on this piece of the conversation. When I'm at a show, and it doesn't matter if the dealer is 20, 40, 60, or 80, when we finish the deal, we're always asking each other what your Instagram and Twitter handles are. I'm not asking, do you have a
I noticed
store?
that on a lot of the YouTube videos that I've watched.
Yep. Nobody's asking what's your eBay link. You know, do you have an eBay store? No. What's your IG handle?
So
Because
if you're not putting product up and having a conversation on social, you're basically missing out on a big part of the equation.
that's absolutely it. And you know, it's also building somewhat of a brand. Even if you're not building, you know, a business, you know, you want people to trust you. You know, if you're selling someone a $1,500 card, they're sending you $1,500 and they're hoping that you send them that card. You know, so to be able to build that personal brand, you know, you could do that better on social media than you can on the other platforms.
So that's an interesting kind of point here. The one thing that just popped into my mind here. So I mean, have you come across any kind of nightmare stories and where somebody's actually either, I don't know, Cash App, Venmo, kind of PayPal, like money for like a 15 kind of $100 kind of card, and being screwed on the back end of that?
Yeah, I've seen a whole bunch of it. I mean, luckily, I got taken once for $30 on a Venmo deal. You know, which truthfully looked too good to be true. It was a LaMelo Ball rookie that, you know, I figured, look, if he's going to take me for $30, I'll take the chance.
Yeah.
But I've seen cases of people who built brands solely, it looked like, to just, you know, take the bag and walk away at the end and take their name, and that was the end of it. I mean, there are handles that people within our industry know that if I were to say the names, which I won't, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know what happened there. I know what happened there, and it's real money. I mean, I know a guy who was at $5 grand. You know, and it's scary in this in the sense that, you know, somebody that looks like a trustworthy person could be doing that, you know, building that name for a year so that the ultimate payoff
So
can come.
that
But it's, you know what, it's like that everywhere. I hate to say that, but it's,
yeah.
you know,
I mean, unfortunately, in business, it happens.
you're going to get
It's no
unsavory people
different from
anywhere you
being
go, any industry you're in.
screwed over by a vendor or anything like that as well.
Exactly. You know, but look, most people are concerned enough about or care enough about their brands, and they don't want someone putting something on social that's going to take them down. That, you know, if I were to sell a card to you and you were to say, hey, Mike, it's not in as good a condition as you said it was, I'm going to take it back because I don't want, you know, I don't want
you don't want the ding against your brand or your reputation.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So, but not everyone's like that. I mean, I've seen some cases where, like, I've cringed at how much money these people have lost. So you've got to be careful. You know, eBay provides protection in that regard, Mercari protection in
I
that
was going to
regard.
say
So
from a platform perspective. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it really kind of depends. You got to take it by case scenario. So I was actually going to ask, would you be more comfortable, like, purchasing or making a big purchase on a platform that's going to give you some type of kind of protection? But then again, here, if you see kind of a deal and it's a deal you can't kind of ignore it. But like you kind of just said here, if it looks like the deal is too good to be true,
Yep.
that should be almost like a red flag.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's definitely like some generalities with that, you know, but there's also there's a component in this whole thing of getting something before someone else does too, right? So, you know, a couple nights ago, somebody had a Joel Embiid rookie for sale, and they posted it on social. And it's one of these things where I knew instantly 12 people were going to claim it, and it might not be in 100% perfect shape, but I I claimed that thing as fast as I freaking could, because even if it's got a little damage, the opportunity was you know, something that create that price created an opportunity where I wasn't really going deep into, you know, asking about condition and all these other things, which that's something that only is in social. You know, when you have, you know, auctions on eBay, timed auctions, you don't have something like that where it's the first person to get there. Um, there's really there's so many moving parts within this. It's funny that really almost every card, whether you buy, sell, or trade it, is a case by case kind of analysis, if you will. But it's there's so much opportunity, but you really just have to be careful in a lot of spots.
Nah, good stuff here. So no, I mean, really appreciate the insight, kind of like on the backgrounds on. And if you don't like in mind here, just give us some additional kind of info on the Philly Card Factory. How long has it actually been operating? And give us your pitch on what it is and what you're doing.
Yeah, so we actually just opened our doors a couple of weeks ago. Been building this for the last little while, mainly through a social network, you know. But we are a full service grading and consignment center. So we handle all consignment for, you know, mid to high level cards. Analyze anything before we bring it in, and we provide grading primarily through PSA. And we actually have a new offering that we're coming out with this week, where we're going to be providing free PSA grading, and then offering exclusive sales rights once we get the cards back. So the thing that I've learned the most about the card industry, people love to buy, people love to sell, people love to trade. People get scared when they talk about grading. You know, the actual process of grading. And nobody wants to grade themselves, whether they don't trust themselves looking at cards, whether they don't want to, you know, have the risk of sending it out to California and coming back. And I saw a lot of, I don't want to use the term fly by night, but I saw a lot of people jumping into the industry and just saying, "Send me your cards, I'll grade them all for you." And, you know, we've built a model that I'm not just going to take your cards and send them off for you. You know, we're going to look at them. Obviously, we're going to do everything everyone else does with their high power lighting or centering tools and everything else. But we have the sales component on the back end of it, that the first piece of the sale goes directly back to the card owner, in the raw value of the card that we agree upon beforehand. So we really have a model that's no risk. And it allows card owners to kind of just, hey, take all my cards, handle it for me. And then
No, that's interesting. So I hate to interrupt you. So basically, it's a service in where people are sending you collectibles or their cards. I mean, if you don't think it's actually going to grade, you'll communicate and have a
absolutely.
conversation with that person going to find. I mean, obviously, you're not going to spend the money to any PSA or any grading company from that perspective if you don't think there's going to, have some type of return. But once you've taken a look at it, you'll actually offer, all right, you know what, this card is going to offer at least the price of X.
Yep.
So you'll guarantee that part of the sale up, kind of like, up front.
Exactly.
That's a great model. Yeah.
So you come to me with a call Luca. It's a Luca rookie for, you know, we agree beforehand that the raw value today is worth $500.
Gotcha.
I'm going to look at it. If it's a PSA 8 or below, I'm going to send it back to you, or we can grade it for you, but I'm not going to cover that cost. You know, that's something, because at the PSA 8 level.
Gotcha.
Over the last
year,
that's
what we're looking at too. So you're looking at, from a modern perspective, you're looking for an 8 or above.
We're looking for nines or above.
Nines or above.
So yeah, so what's going on right now in the industry? It's funny, and I think a lot of it is because PSA's opened their economy model, and there's a lot of people now sending cards in. There was a thought in the industry that PSA eights and raw cards were very similar values, and that's now gone into PSA nines and raw cards being similar value.
Interesting.
And a lot of people would rather a raw card because they're going to go and grade it. So if that PSA 9 is $100, if I can get that raw card for $30 and I can grade it for $50, I'm only spending $80. Maybe I'll get it back as a 10. If it comes back as a 9, I save $20 by not buying it as a 9. So there's kind of that. It's gone from 8 to 9. So look, I'll look at 8s depending on what the card is. But yes, in modern 9s and 10s, we determine that the raw value is, like I said, $500. So once we get that card back graded 9 or 10, first $500 in that sale goes directly back to the card owner because that's what the raw value was. That profit piece, depending on whether it's a PSA 10 or PSA 9, there's different percentage points, which then we collect our fee on. But it's really guaranteeing the card owners that raw value before the card even gets graded, which is something that is as far as I know, and I've done a lot of research, not available in the market. And it's something a little bit different for people that want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into what are these guys actually doing, instead of I could just send them my cards and get them back. And I don't want to say that's lazy, but that's just kind of the baseline of what we do. But people that really look into kind of what we're doing here, I think there's a extreme value, but also it's taking all the work away from the card owners, from the grading, the ownership perspective, the selling, the shipping. We handle all the shipping. So it really takes all of that out of the hands of the card owners. So
That's great. Definitely, great kind of service. Now, are you touching vintage as well, or are you just mostly dealing with modern?
we're doing vintage also. I sent in a couple of an old basketball order, a couple Kareem and Havlicek rookies a few weeks ago. So we'll do that. But look, I mean, I
No, I was going to say from a vintage perspective. I mean, you're not necessarily looking for nines and tens.
no. I mean, look, if I can find a
Vintage, I
9 in
mean,
vintage anywhere,
there's
I'll
profit in anywhere from, I guess, basically kind of anything depending on
yeah. And that's why I say it's
yeah.
like a case by case basis. So I had someone send me some, like I said, Alcindor and Havlicek rookies, and I looked into it and I said, look, our threshold here is a PSA 5. For how much that person had into it and how much the cost of grading is going to be and what we can get for it. Told them, I said, PSA 5 is our threshold. So we sent them in, and I think, we'll do pretty well on those. So yeah, it does depend. Vintage is such a thing right now too. Vintage is really becoming a big deal. I haven't got into it myself, but there's a lot of, it's interesting. Take a step back real fast. There's a lot of people our age that are into this because, we were kids, like we said before, we loved it then. A lot of us have kids now who are getting into it. So, that's a piece of it. But there's also a lot of us, like I bought a Sandy Koufax card and gave it to my dad, so there's the other side of it also, our kids are into it, but I think there's guys like us who it's a cool thing to give our dad the Sandy Koufax card, or, one day I'm going to buy a Jackie card and give it to my dad, and that's going to be cool. So I don't know what's driving the vintage market right now, but it's hot. It's really hot.
Absolutely. No, so no, I definitely kind of can appreciate that. Want to go in like a little bit of a direction now, because in addition to, I mean, I didn't really, understand the full depth of like the service that you're providing. So I really appreciate like the overview. I mean, there's a lot of different kind of steps between capturing the orders, doing some analysis on your own, or basically kind of with your team, coming up with some type of projection, communicating that with the buyers, obviously having that relationship with connecting with PSA, and navigating that whole process of getting them submitted in a reasonable kind of fashion and returned in a reasonable fashion so that it's ready for sale here is a service. It's a great kind of service. So, but in addition to that here, you get very heavily involved, or you're starting to get heavily involved with different components of what the industry calls like a trade night.
Yep.
and obviously this is something that you're doing, but I wanted to almost like get the perspective from like a professional, just layman's kind of like terms. What is a trade night, and why do you kind of like see it as being a value component to the industry moving forward?
Yeah, so trade nights, quite honestly, are some of the most fun um, opportunities, events that I will drive, as long as my wife's okay with it, I will drive a distance for a trade night. It's essentially, a room. We've hosted them a bunch where we've had individuals come and basically just bring their Apaches, bring their boxes of cards, set up tables, lay your stuff out, and just basically start trading. My first trade night was at the Philly card show
Yeah,
at the Valley Forge Casino, which was
a
a
couple of
big
weeks ago.
show.
Yeah,
So I went to the one back in
back in September or
early, yeah.
maybe October.
I think it was, sometime in the winter. And I'm like, I'm going to go check out this trade night. And I got in there a little bit early, and I got a table, and, one of these round tables, whatever it was. You don't have to pay to be in there, obviously. You just bring your cards. It's usually hosted by an organization. Like I said, we host them now. So that's who's paying for it. And you go in there, you open your cards, and people walk around and they see what you have. And it's just as it says, it's a trade night, but it creates the opportunity to form relationships. And I think as we're talking, I think you see, like, I'm a relationship guy. That's what I do. So there's opportunities within the trade night, obviously, but it also allows you the chance to put people into your network. And okay, this guy's a big Phillies collector, so now I know when I get
Check that box. This is
right. And it kind of helps you, as when you're in 3 months from now, you kind of remember those things. But just, trade night, from the simplest explanation, it's just a bunch of people that want to sling cards, trade cards, and you could sell cards there also. It's
that was going to be my next thing over
Yep.
here. Do you see, because when we first spoke, we actually talked about the amount of money that was actually being moved at the Philly card show. Do you still see kind of cash being moved at volumes at trade nights as well?
Oh yeah, there's
So it's almost like a mini kind of show. I mean, if you want to
Oh,
trade,
yeah. No,
you can trade, but there's a lot of buying that takes place at these trade shows as well.
So, absolutely. So I was at a trade night, and it wasn't a trade night attached to a show. So this was just an event that people came to, and I had these two guys that drove about 2.5 hours, the middle of Pennsylvania, to be in Philly, and the kid told me he had 10 grand cash in his pocket. So he's like, look, I'll make trades, and he wasn't saying it to be all cool.
Yeah, he was
saying, hey, just if we can work a trade here, I'm happy to buy some of these cards from you. So it's there's so many opportunities, and I keep using that word, but there's so many opportunities when you get around individuals that have the same kind of thought process that we all do. And it's fun too when you start, you meet people who may have different collections than you do, because that's what's great about a trade night, because when you're on social media, a lot of times everyone has the same cards, and you're just trying to find, who's got the cheapest ones. But you go to these trade nights and you find people that have a bunch of F1, people have soccer, people have hockey, and it's not just those same Tatis and Acuna and Vlad cards that you see every day. And again, you put those people into your network, and no, I've got an F1 guy, I've got a soccer guy, I've got a hockey guy. But trade nights are some of the most fun, honestly. And I've made legitimate friends that I met on social that then, end up meeting at these shows that, I use and they use me as, again, another set of ears, eyes, brains. So trade nights and social, two biggest takeaways, I think, today is just, those are, got to get involved. You got to get involved and get your name and your face out there. If you're looking, like I said, if you're looking to make this more than just a hobby, trade nights are incredibly helpful.
Any ideas on when your next trade night will be?
Yeah, so we're looking at one in at the end of May. We're just finalizing a date for it. My wife is actually due in June, so trying to get one in before that. But it should be at the end of May, and we have a partner that we work with in Belmar, New Jersey, not Belmar, the town, but MAWR. I always tell people that because then I'll have 50 people show up in a beach town in the middle of, the winter and like, what's going on here? But we have a partner down in Belmar at a baseball complex. Pretty cool spot that we'll do our trade shows in. So should be announcing that in the next couple of days. I'm just finalizing that date, but looking hopefully the week before Memorial Day. But we'll have an announcement on that pretty soon.
Nice. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate everything. If you don't mind, please just give us the whole kit and caboodle. Where can we find the Philly Card Factory? I think it's just phillycardfactory.com.
Yep.
Your social media accounts, the best way that people can contact you, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the above here. Give us the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, so we're on all the socials. We're PHL Card Factory. Website is phillycardfactory.com. I have an email address, but that seems pretty archaic these days. So social is probably the best way to reach out. Like I said, PHL Card Factory. And I'm happy to help, anyone. And I think individuals will confirm this. I'm not a hard salesperson. If I could help with questions, if I could help with anything without the carrot of a sale on my end, I'm happy to do that. I want to see this industry grow. So anyone out there, please feel free to reach out if I can answer any questions. And like I said, I'm not going to try to make a sale on you. I like seeing this hobby grow. So PHL Card Factory on the socials and phillycardfactory.com on the web.
Hey, well, I appreciate your time. I know that you're going to be joining us for making picks shortly, but let's put a wrap on this one. And hey, really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
It's been a great time, Mark. Thanks so much.
Take care now.